on Daf Ayin Amud Aleph of the regular prints of Mishna Berurah, Maran writes in Siman Mem Aleph, Hanose Masoy al Rosho Holetz Tfilin Shel Rosh Ad Shiasira Masoy. Now you have to realize again, remembering that they used to work while having tefillin. They had tefillin the entire day. They had tzitzit and tefillin basically the whole day until nightfall, and therefore you have to know the halachot of what pertains to nowadays. Maybe it will be just taking out the garbage. You have to know if you have to have the tefillin off, or can you hold it on when you're in shul and trying to help outside, or it happens to be in Sukkot time and they have to do certain things. So those are what pertains to day-to-day life. But back in the time that they used to wear it the entire day, it becomes actually more of a relevant sugya of what you could and what you cannot do with having tefillin on. So says Maran, if you have a weight that you're carrying on top of your head, certain things that are heavy, people used to hold it balanced with two hands and use their head, that actually the pressure should be put on it, as it is still customary in many areas of the world. So can you have a masoy, a load on your head when you have a tefillin on? Says Maran, no, it's not respectful. Choletz tefillin shel rosh ad shiasira masoy. You first take off the tefillin shel rosh before you put the load on, but the tefillin of the hand, you could keep it on. Even if it's something that's not too heavy and it's light, it's mitpahat, something that's not so heavy, still you should not put it on the tefillin shel rosh. Afilu mitpachto asur la'aniach al rosh sheyesh bo tefillin, aval davar shtarko liten berosho kibon kova, but something that you always put on. For instance, you want to put your hat. Many people, they are machmir, like Zohar HaKadosh says tremendous things about someone that comes to shul with tefillin. So many people wear tefillin, but they don't want to walk in the streets with tefillin being too obvious, especially if they're so what they do is they put on tefillin, especially those who wear smaller tefillin like this, they put on the kova they had on top of it, or they put a hoodie on and they come. So is that mutar? We just said mitpachad is not good. Says Mishna Berurah, anything that's darko bekach, like a hood or a hat, that is fine. You don't need to necessarily be concerned about that. Says the Shulchan Aruch, davar shedarko liten berosho kegon kova or misnefet, that's mutar. And the Rama adds, va'afilu achi imhu masoy kaved. But even if it's something that you usually carry, if it's something heavy that's weighing down on your head, if it's arba'a kabin, va'tfilin nitchakod, if it's pressuring the tefillin and gives a weight for it, then already sarech la'asiran, then it's not proper. You should take off the tefillin. Mishna Berurah writes, hanose masoy zemayri bechol hayom. This is talking about during the day when a person goes about their daily life. Lo b'shat kriyat shema v'tefillah. Of course, we're not talking about the time of tefillah, time of shema. Ayin lekaman, Siman Tzadi Zayin, we're going to discuss the shema more over there. Al rosho v'imhu noseh masoy al yado. How about if you're carrying a load on your hand? You have to take off the tefillin of the hand. Imagine that happens often. You're carrying certain things. It could be anything. It could be even sfarim. It could be folders. And the Kaf HaChaim, by the way, says, even though, let's first read the Mishna Berurah. It's important Kaf HaChaim to mention here. Says the Mishna Berurah, Al yado b'mkom tefillin d'mistama mechusinen. Mistama, usually we have the tefillin covered with the sleeve, with whatever it is that the person is wearing. It's not considered ugly, it's not considered disrespectful. Therefore, en sarich lachlos, you don't have to take them off. Now, the Kaf HaChaim writes here that even though that you're doing that, still you should not, even if you're carrying something that's good, it's not disrespectful, you should not tuck it under your arm where it will be stopping between the tefillin and your body, because you want the al levavchem, that the tefillin has to be put on a person's heart, You don't want to make a hefsek between the tefillin and the heart, says the Kaf HaChaim. Says the Kaf HaChaim, how about your sleeve? You're wearing something covering, you're not naked. Something is covering between the tefillin and your heart anyways. So says the Kaf HaChaim, that's not considered a hefsek because it's the derech of malbush. But anything that you could prevent from stopping between the tefillin and your heart, that is something that you should do. So therefore, says the Kaf HaChaim, even though it's mutar to carry loads, don't tuck it under your arm in a way that stops between the tefillin and your heart. And that's a chumrah again. That's beautiful to be mindful of. Says the Mishna Berurah further, if the load is a large load of arba'a kabin, then already is pressuring tefillin. If it's on tefillin and it's going to damage the tefillin, then you have to be mindful. Again, nowadays we don't carry those heavy loads, and the tefillin that we have is also made of a much stronger press. The hydraulic press that's used for even the hand ones, that's used for pressing and putting the batim of tefillin together nowadays is nothing comparable to what they used to have in the time of Chazal or in the time of even Shulchan Aruch. And therefore, our tefillin is much more durable. The proper tefillins that we have, it's much stronger than what they had in the olden day, and therefore it's not as sensitive. But nevertheless, again, if it's something that's going to be scratching against your tefillin and it's going to round up the corners and damage the tefillin or scratch the paint or what else, that's something that a person has to, of course, be mindful of. So says the Mishna Berurah, if you could put the masoy in a different place, instead of having it centered on top of your head, pushing down on the tefillin, if you can put it on the side in a way that it's not going to touch the tefillin, it's not going to pressure the tefillin, then says the Mishna Berurah, of course, that's something that you want to do. And he continues, after Noseh Hashel Yad, even though that you still have the tefillin shel Yad, the tefillin shel Rosh you take off, and that's still fine. Now, the Kaf HaChaim says that when you take off the tefillin shel Rosh, you should have the tefillin shel Yad covered as well. And he says that heter ze amur hen beofen shatefillin kvar hayu munachot al yado v'achar kach limlach leotzi. If you want to take, let's say, something that's not respectful, says the Mishna Berurah, for instance, I am Bit Yosef, uletzia zevel al rosho. Can you take the garbage out on your head? Afilu me'at, even a little bit. If you want to carry the garbage bag on your head, it's heavy, even if it's covered, even if you put it on the side, it's considered disrespectful. You have to take off the tefillin shel Rosh. So this actually happens to be applicable sometimes in the shul. Sometimes you come in and you see they didn't clean last night, and you want to take the garbage out. Can you take it with having tefillin on, or is maybe that's considered disrespectful for the tefillin to have on? Now, we have to make one clarification here. What we call garbage nowadays, and what they used to call garbage is very different. This comes actually handy in Hilchot Muktzeh and Shabbat as well. Garbage is supposed to be muktzeh. But if you take a look at our garbage, you go to a regular, garbage bin, small ones at least. What do you have there? Disposable plates and cups that could actually be washed and reused again. But we trash them because we're very mefunak, we're very fancy, right? That's basically our garbage. Some tea bags and some thing of coffee. That's basically the garbage that we have most of the time. They're not dirty. We're not talking about that garbage. We're talking about garbage, and you have dirty diaper inside of it, and extra food that's smelly now, and dirty things. That's considered halachically garbage. So if you have garbage of that nature, the Kaf HaChaim says even though they take off the tefillin shel Rosh, you can't even have tefillin shel Yad if it's going to be exposed. It has to be covered completely, right? And that's only talking about the case that he had that tefillin on before you decided to take the garbage out. But if you know you're going to be taking the garbage out, you should not put on tefillin because that's still a certain level of disrespect that is there for tefillin. So that's something to be mindful of, and this kind of becomes relevant. I've seen it happen in the shuls when they have, nobody has taken care of the garbage, and somebody opts to put it out and standing with the tefillin trying to go trash the garbage. Especially, again, you have to understand, if you go downstairs to the actual dumpster, that dumpster is for sure considered zevel. That's considered maybe even. So that becomes much more. You don't want to go open the garbage, the trash dumpster, and put things in it when you have tefillin shel rosh and tefillin shel yad on. That's something to be mindful of as respect for tefillin. So let's finish this eve. Again, if you already had the tefillin on, covering it helps as long as you're not carrying it on your head. Yeah. Short answer is yes. So it says the Mishna Berurah, mutar, after hu munach al tefillin. It's the Shulchan Aruch said in Ot Dalet over here in the Mishna Berurah, at the end of the words of Shulchan Aruch, aval davar shtar kol litem beroshot kova or mistefet mutar, that you could put your hat or your hoodie on the tefillin, because that's the derech malbush. That's the way you always look. You cover your head with it. That's mutar. Says the Mishna Berurah that the after hu munach ala tefillin, even though that the hoodie is now covering the tefillin, is literally sitting on top of the tefillin, or the hat is sitting on top of the tefillin, it's still mutar. That's not considered bizayon, because it is the way people get dressed, and therefore it's mutar. Now, the Kaf Chaim writes that this heter is mentioned this is talking about the case that you want to put your head on when you already have tefillin on your head. But somebody that, let's say you go to a shul and the heater is not working and it's freezing, it's cold in the morning. So you want to wear tefillin and you want to put your hoodie on, or you want to put your hat on because it's cold. Kataf Kaf Chaim, the Eino Rashai lifros sudar al rosho lechasoto kol ot shatfilin berosho sheken lo itiru et hadavar ela bekova o mistefed shtarkam liyot al rosho aval lo bebeged acher. So you can't go bring a blanket because you're cold and put it on your head, because that's not the derech. Whatever is the derech, if the hoodie is the derech, the hoodie you could cover. If the hat is the derech, which is, then you can wear your hat to prevent yourself from cold. But you can't go bring a blanket and put it on your head, on your tefillin. That already Kaf Chaim says is considered disrespectful, because not the norm for you to be wearing that on the tefillin. Ulinyan kova geshen. How about the hoodie that they have to prevent you from getting wet? This is the Shana coats nowadays. They have the waterproof raincoats. So you want to put the raincoat hat on. On that, the Rabbi Shlomo Yisraeli, he writes that the minhag is to be mekel on that also. That's also considered a hoodie. That's also considered a hat that you wear on your head, and therefore, even if you have the tefillin on, it's mutar to wear them as well. And if the kova, if the hat is full of ze'ah, the old ones, like they're full of old sweat and grease and so on, then the Chaim Palaji, Ruach Hayim, he writes that you should not put on tefillin. It damages and it's not kavod. You don't want something dirty that's, not every hat is clean. So if you're putting a hat, again, nowadays, Baruch Hashem, we are mefunak, we're fancy and everything is clean and everything is nice. And as soon as something gets dirty, you toss it and you switch it and you get a new one. But back in the day, how many times in a lifetime a person bought a hat? So if you have a hat that's full of grease and full of, sweat, that's not considered a kavod to put it on tefillin, right? So that goes also with same thing as being mindful of not putting hair gel, especially the solid ones, prior to putting on tefillin. Many people they wear hair dressing basically in order to keep them up. So that is something that could be like could be actually questionable. Someone showed me the tefillin recently. I never realized that it could become actually so serious of a question. For a few years worth of putting on tefillin on a hair that was freshly gelled in the morning, and you come to shul and you put this thing on, the tefillin had a whole layer of maybe 2-3 millimeters covered with gel on the bottom of the tefillin, right? Gathering all this. So that's of course disrespectful for tefillin. And again, this guy is a tzaddik. He's just never noticed that this is even an issue, but it could become a problem, and it could also damage the tefillin. So that's something to be mindful as well. So it's not now that back in the day they had ze'ah, they had the grease from the sweat and dirtiness. Nowadays it's not that; it's clean, but it's oil and grease that people put on the head, and that's of course also an issue to be mindful of. So says Maran in next Siman Membet, we're starting. This is a subject that we have alluded to, we have spoken about. Can you switch your tefillin shel yad and shel rosh with each other? Or the straps of the tefillin? Let's imagine, and this has happened. I remember once I got a question many years ago, someone that needed a new strap because the strap of the tefillin shel yad snapped when they stretched it. So they wanted a tefillin strap, and they didn't have the chance to go to a Judaica. They had an old tefillin that had a decent retzuah shel rosh. The retzuah shel rosh was decent. So they asked, they said, can I open the knot on the tefillin shel rosh and use the strap of my old tefillin for the new tefillin that now the strap snapped, and this way I'll have a tefillin right now? What's the answer? The answer is you can't do it, right? Because we've learned about this, the ma'alin b'kodesh and moridin. So let's actually see it inside the Shulchan Aruch. Asur leshanot tefillin shel rosh la'asatan shel yad. You cannot change the tefillin shel rosh and make a tefillin shel yad from them, right? Imagine if you wanted to take tefillin shel rosh, the k'ti'ah itself even, and turn it into a tefillin shel yad, it's asur to do that. Afilu likach retzuah mehem, even to take a strap from tefillin shel rosh and use it as strap for tefillin shel yad, says Maran Shulchan Aruch, that also would be v'liten b'shel yad asur. That would be asur. Why? You cannot lower the level of kedusha from a kedusha chamura to a kedusha kala, from a higher level of kedusha to a lower level of kedusha. And says Maran, sherubo shel shakai b'shel rosh. Why is shel rosh considered more of kedusha? Because tefillin shel rosh contains 2 out of 3 letters of the name of Shin, Dalet, and Yud. The Shin is on the tefillin on itself, on the k'ti'ah. The Dalet is in the strap in the back. The kesher shel tefillin, the knot of tefillin shel rosh, has the surah of Dalet, and the tefillin shel yad only has the Yud, which again the kesher of tefillin shel yad looks like a Yud. So that's Shin, Dalet, and Yud. 2 out of 3 is in the tefillin shel rosh, and therefore that's a higher level of kedusha slightly, and you cannot lower it to a tefillin shel yad. Aval mishel yad l'shel rosh mutar l'shanot, but vice versa is mutar. You could take a retzuah, a strap of tefillin shel yad, and make a tefillin make it for retzuah of tefillin shel rosh, and that would be great. How about if you buy brand new tefillin? So this tefillin has never ever been used. The sofer took, I'm not sure if you have seen, the Ritzuah comes in like a big bunch. It's like one long Ritzuah. They take it, they cut it to the size that they want, and they put it in and make a knot, and that's that Tefillin Shel Yad or Tefillin Shel Rosh that you have. So imagine you got brand new. This strap, this tefillin has never been used. It's a kasher, it's made properly, but it's never been put on by any human being. Says the Shulchan Aruch, then is mutar l'shanot. Then you could change it because we have a concept of hazmana lav miltai. If you prepare something, it's a whole sugya in Shas, whether or not we say preparation creates kedusha or preparation does not create kedusha. Now, this is something we're going to discuss more at length because it depends on if it's begufa kedusha or not. But in this case, says Maran, Shulchan Aruch, mutar l'shanot. It's mutar to change it. Afilu mishel rosh l'shel yad. Even from the tefillin shel rosh, you could take the strap of tefillin shel rosh and make a tefillin shel yad strap out of it. שתולה עליהם מכסה אור, או אור אחד, ונראים כבית אחד. Even the קציעה itself, even the actual tefillin shel rosh, you could turn into tefillin shel yad, and that would be fine as well. So says the Mishna Berurah on that. תפילין של יד, אפילו אין לו של יד, ויש לו שתיים של ראש. Even if you have no tefillin shel yad and you have two tefillin shel roshes and you want to put one of them on your hand, you cannot do that. Why is that? Says the Mishna Berurah, רצועה פשוט הוא דהדין, דנעתיק המיוחד לשל ראש. The halacha is that even the cover of tefillin shel rosh, you cannot use to cover tefillin shel yad, because again, this is considered tashmish of a higher level of kedusha, versus turning it into a tashmish of a lower level kedusha, and therefore it would be also asur. Some of the details of this halachot, B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to continue in the days to come.